All right, welcome everyone on Twitch. We're still setting up behind the scenes right here. Adrian's getting into his spot.
Yeah.
We're a few minutes late. I'm sorry. Tech issues as
You're
well
good,
as
you're good.
putting the kids to bed and things like that. But thank you everyone for tuning in on Twitch. I really appreciate everyone. You guys getting here early and being a part of the team. We got Low Bass Guy, um, and or Low Bass Guy. It's funny because I know a musician who's Mike Bass, and then so he's low bass, and so it just throws me the heck off. But he is the creator of an awesome community, which I'm really proud to be a part of, which is the web community and the web creative community, I should say. And there are a bunch of great creative people over there, and I'm really proud to be a part of that stream team. And welcome into Carly, who's our moderator right now, which I appreciate, and Tina French for joining us earlier as well. So I'm just setting up on the back end real quickly, the Facebook, but I'll introduce everybody that you see on screen while I'm doing this. Just so people know what this episode is all about, it's going to be Sports OTHP, episode 343, if you can believe it.
Nice.
Um, 343. We're going to talk about NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, um, and we're also going to talk about the Hershey Bears. C4, you went to the second game, right, for that?
I did. You were
Right.
saying,
We'll
right.
talk about Hershey Bears. We'll talk about DC Defenders. Talk about DC United, baseball, and more. Yeah, it's gonna be our spring season. But the people on screen that you see right now are you got Adrian Rutherford, a good friend of mine,
Hello.
and also known as Ace Caltor 314 in chat. So Carly, if you can give him a quick shout out, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited to have him back on. He was on at the end of the last podcast where his Oilers were able to make it to the Western Conference finals. And we'll talk about how they did in that Western Conference finals. We also have Scott Firestone rocks drums. I appreciate him for joining us. I'm sorry that your Rangers were not able to make it, but I love that you're still repping them. And we had Scott give his thoughts on all the rounds. Unfortunately, he got injured between a couple of rounds, so he didn't get his take on beating Carolina, and we'll get that take as well. We'll talk about a previewing of the Stanley Cup Finals, the Bears, as we were talking about with before with C4, and then we'll talk NBA playoffs in the second hour, and we're going to talk a lot of other fun stuff like DC Defenders. A bunch of us in the podcast group who are going to be on the show were actually at the game yesterday. We'll break all of that down as well. So lots of fun stuff to talk about. I am going to start the audio podcast now. So we're going to do 30 seconds of silence, and then we're going to start. Let me mute all of my stuff before we get too far into this. And thank you everyone for being here. All right, so 30 seconds of silence starts now.
Recording in progress.
And welcome to episode 343 of Sports on the Hill podcast. I'm joined with a bunch of fun guests tonight. We've got Ace Caltor 314, aka Adrian. We've got C4 or Cheryl Ann Forrester. We've got Scott Firestone, aka Firestone Rocks Drums, all with us live tonight. And we are going to be covering a bunch of different awesome topics. We're talking a little bit of Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals in the NHL to start the podcast. We're going to talk about the Hershey Bears and their Eastern Conference finals right now. And then in hour two, we're talking NBA playoffs. We'll break down the Eastern and Western Conference finals, and that will preview the NBA finals. And then at 10:30, we'll talk DC Defenders, We went to the game as a podcast group yesterday. We've got footage to show from the game of some of the really best highlights, some of the best moments of it that we'll actually be able to break down live because it's footage that we shot. So it's not going to break any copyrights, and it'll be a cool thing to do live on air. Yesterday, we did our first IRL stream on Twitch. We did it live at halftime of the game, which was super cool. A lot of you actually in chat were able to join us, so that was really fun. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Unfortunately, we did lose that game by 1 point, but we were out of the playoffs anyway. So we just had a really fun time, and it was a really exciting game. And we'll break that down as well as the season. And at the end of the show, we'll talk a little baseball, a little bit of soccer, and also a little wrestling. So big full show for episode 343 tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Let's get into it right away. I'm going to start off with Scott. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to rewind since we were off the last 2 weeks. And I want to talk about some of your feelings about the Carolina series, if you can remember back then. What were your thoughts on playing that team and how that series ended up?
Wow, God, I got so caught up in the Panther series that going back to the Hurricanes right now was like it seems like a year ago, you know. Um,
It was a
uh,
pretty exciting series. I will remind you kind of how it ended. You got a hat trick in the
oh
final.
yes, that's right.
You were down
Um, Kreider, my man, yeah,
in that one.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a beautiful thing. That was like he really stepped it up, and like and I just have to connect that right away to the Panther series because that's what's on my mind the most.
Right.
Kreider did like squat, did nothing. I mean, yeah, he scored a shorthanded goal, was beautiful, but he that where was that in the Panther series? You
Yeah.
know, and that's exactly like the difference between like why I think they won against the Hurricanes and why they lost to the Panthers. You know, they just did a much better job, it seemed, against the Hurricanes. And the Hurricanes were an aggressive team too, but I'm good. They were definitely a good team. But yeah, yeah. Now that you're reminding me that last game, the hat trick, that was amazing. That was just like
It was
that
very
was
reminiscent. We talked about this. I talked about it with Gil on the last episode of the podcast. That was very reminiscent of the last time you guys went to the championship because that same situation happened with. That was the last time you had scored a hat trick, and you were also in a series where it was like a
right.
must-win game, and you ended up pole vaulting that into winning the Stanley Cup. Obviously, they fall a little bit short this time. I thought that the Rangers played a really interesting game. They were very good on the power play, and they were very good on the penalty kill, but they were lacking a bit on 5-on-5 play throughout the playoffs. I think that
Yes.
easily take advantage of that on the Capitals, right? And then less easy, but still take advantage of that with Carolina. But Florida has a pretty good penalty kill, right? And
Yep.
um they have scoring across, a lot of different lines and they're a juggernaut, So we talk about in sports running it back. So a team that is so close to winning it all, but they fall just short, right? And it happened to the Washington Mystics as an example in this area where they lost and then they had some of those same pieces and they moved it forward, right? They just did a little bit of tweaking. They ran it all the way back, and sure enough, they got all the way back to the finals and then won it the next year, right? And so Florida, in some ways, is supposed to do something very similar. And I just
Right.
wanted to point out one interesting fact from the Eastern Conference point of view, because that's where we're coming from. The last 5 Eastern Conference champions are all from the state of Florida, which is
Yes.
wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay 3 times, followed by
Yep.
Florida now twice.
Now, can I ask
And
you something? Wait, can I
yeah,
ask you something about that? Didn't the first Tampa Bay championship like weren't or I don't know, maybe again I don't follow the other teams enough to know, but I know a little bit. Didn't a lot of the Rangers from like a few years back go to Tampa and then win the cup with Tampa?
yes, that is true. They did.
Hmm.
There was a bunch of Rangers players that went into that Tampa team.
So
That was
maybe they should have stayed in New York.
right. Yeah, exactly. you Um, yeah, and so I don't. It's so weird to me because if you look at when the conferences were realigned and the divisions were realigned within that, the it was such a shift because when those Florida teams were in the Southeast
Stop.
division. they tended to be pretty terrible. There was a couple exception years, but especially Florida was just, god awful. And so it's just interesting to see now with this realignment where they've moved to a division with the Canadian teams, which I think is very bizarre, and how that becomes a division. But they were ended up being able to succeed, obviously, in a lot of ways. And they've done well for a while, because if you go back even further than that, the Caps beat Tampa Bay in the Eastern Conference Finals. If Tampa Bay had won that year, then that's even more dominance over that,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's just, I thought that was kind of interesting. So let's go through the series real fast. I'm going to go through how the breakdown of the games went, and then I'll ask you a couple questions about it, and then I'll get the rest of the panel's thoughts on it, and then we'll switch to the Western Conference side, and then we'll do it from there.
Sounds good.
So let me just I'll pull up the list of games and go through all of them at first, and then we can
Let's see if I can remember. Well, are you going to the start with the Hurricanes or
no, we're gonna move past the Hurricanes. We're gonna go
okay,
just
great. Good.
yeah. It's fine. No, I was just trying to get your thoughts on just the end, but it was just exciting that they were able to pull it off, because they were kind of, they won the first three and then they lost two in a row, and it seemed to be backsliding, right? And so obviously,
Well, you know
that
what it is though. What have you done for me lately?
yeah,
That's all we remember, care about in playoff time. That's it.
exactly. So Florida in the first game against Florida, they lost 3-0, right? It was kind of what I expected. Florida was a buzzsaw, and
It was 1-0. It was a great game actually.
right.
Right? I mean, really, it was 1-0. I think what they scored at the end of the end of the second period or the beginning of the third period.
No, it's actually, they scored one in the first, and then in the
Oh,
third they
wonderful.
scored one about 16 minutes in to make it 2-0,
There
and
you
then
go. Yeah,
empty netter. So
yeah.
it is closer than it looks, but
They dominated.
the Rangers didn't really put up much of a
Yeah,
scoring
yeah.
threat.
I'll be
Florida
right back.
dominated.
My cat's about to knock a picture off my mantle.
Oh, I know that feeling. Where's
Yeah,
my cat? My cat's around somewhere.
exactly. A
All
lot of
right,
passion.
let's move this out of the way.
But yeah, I agree 100%. Florida completely dominated game one, and it was like, where are you guys?
Yeah. But then game two, which was, I thought, really important, because I mean, obviously the series is starting in New York, and you got to win one of two, otherwise you're just
Yep,
sunk. And at that point, it's the home.
almost a must win. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say it is a must win. And so, um, um, it was, you know, sorry, I pulled up the wrong game stat.
that was Trocheck maybe.
Yeah, so yeah, it was exactly. So it was Trocheck got the first one, his seventh goal of the playoffs, and then Carter Verhaeghe gets his eighth on a power play goal, and at 18:09, it tied it at 1-1. And then there was no goal scoring in the second, no goal scoring in the third, and then in overtime, Goodrow scores his fourth goal of the playoffs, and they win it 2-1. So I mean, oof, they just barely, get away
And
with that.
again,
What are some
if you look at all the stats throughout the whole series, Florida dominated in every stat except, uh, pucks going into the net. I mean, until after game three or whatever, game four.
right? Yeah, because in game three, I thought was pretty interesting. You got to go to that
I
game,
got to go to that game. That was my first game, man. That was my first ever,
first playoff game, right?
my first NHL game even.
What?
Wow, that's
Yes,
awesome.
I've
Wilder.
never been to a game.
So you never went to Madison
Never
Square
been to a
Garden
game.
for a hockey game,
Not
and
for hockey, for NBA. I saw Knicks play Bulls in playoff actually.
okay,
That was my first Knick game. But yeah, I never been to a hockey game, so it was a bucket list thing. So it was a double bucket list because it was
wow, you got to see a playoff game and get and a
right,
hockey game and a win. So like.
Right.
So I mean,
major win.
got the hat trick right there. So going through that scoring, it didn't start off well. It was 1-0. Just about when you get at your seat, 2 minutes 50 seconds in. So they scored, but Lafreniere at 7:17 tied it up. Barclay once again shows up, his fifth goal of the playoffs, makes it 2-1. Then Sam Reinhart gets his second of the period.
Yeah.
That is again on the power play, where they're just deadly, because the first one was on the power play too. And so he scored 2 power play goals, ties it up 2-2. But then Lafreniere again gets a goal, his 6th of the playoffs, goes up 3-2. Barclay Goodrow scores again. It's like literally a carbon copy of what happened in the first period, happened in the second period for you, but you didn't allow the 2
Yeah.
goals, which is so you're up 4-2. But then
Right.
third period, they score, with 5,
Yeah, they came back.
and then at 6
Mhm.
6:58. So they scored 2 goals in 2 minutes
Yeah.
to tie it up. And then lucky
Totally
for
thought we were going to lose the game. Totally thought the momentum swung their way. Went out to go to the bathroom. The line was humongous. By the time I got back in, the game, the overtime period already started about the minute in already. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god! And we
yeah.
got lucky.
Yeah, you got lucky, especially early, because some of these games go on forever. You never know in the playoffs. Like the playoffs, I think have been over earlier this season than the last couple, but there were some double overtime games in the last couple of seasons, and some
Yeah.
have gone real long. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah, to score 5 minutes in is quite a relief for you. Now, a lot of Rangers fans this game.
The game that I went to had the most Ranger fans out of all the games that you saw if you've been watching.
Right. Okay.
And like I posted on my Facebook page. I went live, and you could see how during warm up everybody goes up to the man. You could see a sea of blue around the Ranger side. Like it was just like, and you
Yeah.
heard them. You heard them loud and clear. Let's go Rangers! It was Memorial Day weekend.
Right. And it's a Sunday, and it's the middle of
Yeah.
the weekend, so it's really easy. And the tickets
And
are
it was probably still cheaper for them to fly to Florida and get tickets to that game than to
It
go to
was
MSG.
absolutely 100%. And my
so
seats were great too, man. My seats were they were in the upper load section, so it was it wasn't
Mhm.
like but we were in the first row.
oh, that's great.
Nice.
So it was just
Very
we were like
nice.
not behind the net. We were like over one section over, like that you could see. Like maybe it was a little hard to see a little bit down the court, a little bit, not too
Mhm.
hard, but I was whatever, man. It was great. We loved it, loved it, loved it. Awesome.
Nice.
I want to thank Andy, who just resubbed with Prime. They've been subscribed for 20 months, and so I appreciate that. And one of our longest subscriptions, so thank you for that. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of this show, whether you're watching live on Facebook or if you're watching live on Twitch. I know I've got a lot of guests here. We're trying to go through a lot of topics. I'm sorry I'm not interacting as much with chat, but I really do appreciate everybody for tuning in and being a part of it.
I got you covered. Don't worry. I'll be talking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, I was so excited that you got to see a win, because
Me too.
I
Me too, man.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
think that's a special thing, and it's so close to your house, right? You said it's really
No. This was not that we're far away, but it was like 45 minutes without traffic.
Okay. That's not bad though.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I really, really struggled with going to game 6. We were toying. I was toying. I had tickets. They were like, it was still going to be less than game 3, but well, it wasn't that much money. It was I mean, whatever. It's a lot. It should be less.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but we were gonna go, and then I was like, my wife was like, and I'm glad we didn't go.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're a good luck charm. Maybe you should have gone. No. Yeah. No.
Wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
Wasn't feeling it. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was good.
It's probably the right
Game
call.
3 was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So unfortunately, then they lose the next 2 games both by the score of 3-2. The next one being in overtime, which you kind of felt like they were gonna get an overtime win because the other 2 went your way, and these games are such coin flips once they get to overtime, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy
Yeah.
already, because if you're up 2-1, you took one back at their place. That's what you did. You did your job. You go home 2-2.
Right.
But
So,
yes, I expected them to win that game. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So, and sorry, I just
They're good.
yeah, it was a tough series because it was really close,
They were the better team, man. Florida was clearly the better team.
yeah,
Clearly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then
I felt like whenever the Rangers went on offense, it felt like the Rangers would just like dump it in. Like it was very rare that the Rangers actually like brought it in, like kind of like with a plan or like how they were gonna move the puck around and find a way to score. They would just like would dump it in and be like, okay, let's see if we can get it. Like it just
Yeah.
that's like to me, man. Just
right. Well, it's hard. I mean, that's kind of the way that the system works these days. Is dump and chase has kind of been the way of because they clog up the middle so much that they don't. A lot of teams don't just take it into the zone like they used to back in the day. This is kind of what
Mm-mm.
now. So it's not something that's unique to your team. You know that I would say
Yeah.
that teams run their
Caps do it.
and
Did
especially
it. Hershey's done it.
right, and you have our old coach, and he did it with us too. So it's not like
right.
it's something
Right.
very unique to ours situation here.
Well, then you got to be physical enough to win and get the puck back.
The board and then stuff like that. And the problem is
Right.
Florida is a pretty physically strong team, and they can take it. And
They did.
the turning really comes with that third period goal, 10:22 into it, where they take that 2-1 lead. They ended up getting an empty net, and then you guys get one with a pulled goalie as well. But by that point, it's kind of over. The difference, is
No, it's fun.
yeah. So I think then it's hard to go back and expect to win, the next game, back in Florida, right? So, but they gave it a good chance. It was a close game. I felt like they were trying, but they just couldn't get it into the net until the very end. And then Panarin did make it 2-1 to sort of save the shutout.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's too little, too late at that point. But I was just really impressed with Florida this whole playoff. So there's nothing
Absolutely.
to ashamed about. I thought you guys played well, and I thought it was an interesting series. I'm gonna get C4. Your thoughts on the series?
Florida's on a mission. And I had a feeling they were going to solve the Rangers because the Rangers' strength throughout the playoffs has been their special teams.
Right.
5-on-5, they have not done well. The Caps outplayed it. Where they beat the Caps was on special teams, was the power play, was the penalty kill. That's where they killed us, literally.
Yeah.
Same thing with Carolina. It was the 5-on-5. Carolina was the better team. I think Carolina should have won that series. I think the Rangers should have been out in the second round. I really do. I think the Rangers had a few more lucky bounces than Carolina, but I had a feeling if they got to Florida, there was no way. Florida, I'm actually a little surprised it went 6 games. I thought it would end in 5, but
listen, they got lucky.
Sorry.
They got
no,
lucky.
that's
man.
okay.
No, that's fair.
That's okay. I thought, but
Florida's been for years now. I mean, even the year before last year, where they made it to the finals, the year before that they were good. So they've been building for some time now.
Right. I think they're coming due. They're getting hot. They're getting, if you will, ripe at the right time. I think Edmonton's gonna have a really hard time with them. Yeah. I'm gonna call it Florida in 5, to be honest with you. I think Edmonton will get lucky one game, but they can't play against Florida the way they played against Dallas and expect to win. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I do think that they are a much better team than Dallas for sure.
Yeah.
But
they got damn lucky last night.
Yeah.
10 shots. Yeah.
But that's later in the process. But no, I've been impressed with Florida all series. I've actually been impressed with them all year. I've kind of been thinking this is their year for a while now.
Right. And I can't remember who Anna and Janaea picked, but I think they both picked Florida before the season, or they thought it was going to be Florida, Colorado. But I think one of them, if not both of them, picked Florida for the whole thing. So yeah, and that almost came true. Colorado was a pretty good team. All right, I'm gonna get to Adrian. Your quick thoughts on the Eastern Conference, and then we'll talk about the Oilers.
Okay, well, with the Eastern Conference, yeah, I'm sorry, the Rangers couldn't quite deliver. I was when I saw that it was, the small lead at the game 6, and then the Rangers were able to like claw their way to get a goal to make it like, oh, hey, maybe there's like a little bit of hope towards the end. I was like, okay, this maybe they'll tie it up before the end of the game, but yeah,
they all like quieted immediately. Like, you could see
Yeah.
I will tell you this. Saturday night, when Florida won it, we were still in Hershey because that game had gone into overtime.
yeah.
In the parking lot, we were watching the game on our phone, and we were watching that game and the Hershey game. We were watching the Florida game on our phones. And in the parking lot, we're like screaming and hollering, and people are like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Rangers are out of it!" And everyone's like,
Oh man,
the entire parking lot was like,
funny. Well, because they're all Pennsylvania Capitals fans, so they like
Right.
right.
They're like,
Yeah, they're Philly or
they're either
Pittsburgh
Philly
or whatever.
fans,
A
but
cornucopia of Rangers haters right there.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, but all right, let's go through it with Adrian with the Oilers series. So when we last left off on Monday, May 20th, Adrian and I got to call the very end of that series with Vancouver in a very exciting 3-2 win. We had Gil and Adrian and myself on at the very end of the last podcast. So if people want to check it out, I finally uploaded the audio today from 2 weeks ago. So if you want to listen to it, they can, or they can watch it on YouTube or on Twitch VODs. But going forward, they played in Dallas and they won their very first game in Dallas, which I thought was an important thing for setting the tone in the series. The Oilers won that first game. They scored 1 minute into the first game. Then they scored 4 minutes in. Then Tyler Seguin by himself tied it up. He scored the next 2 goals. And then in double overtime, Connor McDavid scores his 3rd goal of the playoffs 32 seconds into the second overtime, which Adrian and I were watching together at the same time. He was actually streaming live, and I was like calling him to be like, "You won!" And
yeah. I was so nervous. I was like, I can't watch this. I'm just gonna play Fortnite and stream that, and just check. Like I had my iPad here on this seat that was left over by the previous owner of the house that I'm in right now. It's my high-tech desk, and I have my phone with the right now it's a stream. Get a little streamception there, but yeah, I had the hockey game on my phone while I was playing, and I was just like glance over, and then I saw that okay, this second overtime started. It just started. Nothing's gonna happen. Let me just focus on the game for a bit, and then I checked back. I was like, oh my god, you won! What? Oh dude, I missed it, but I'm glad that it was the outcome I was hoping for because I was too nervous. I couldn't watch it, man. I was like,
I don't blame you. That's
I'll get into more of that later, but yeah.
Overtime, it's pretty exciting. So then Dallas in a must-win situation, kind of a la the other series, breaks through. They score 3 minutes in. Connor Brown scores for the Oilers to tie it 1-1 in the no scoring in the second. In the third, Dallas gets 2 goals. One is an empty netter, so it makes it look a little worse than it was, but it was 3-1 overall in that one. And then they go to Edmonton and win back the game that they had lost, right? Because that's the whole thing is when you lose one at home, you got to steal one on the road.
Right.
And
yeah.
Right.
In that game, the Oilers were up 2-0 at the end of the first period. Zach Hyman and Connor McDavid both scoring, but then in the second period, Dallas scores 3 unanswered goals, and then at the very end of the second period, the Oilers were able to tie it up, which I thought was really important, giving them momentum going into the third period. Fortunately, at 11:54, the Stars score, and then they get an empty netter to once again make it look worse than it was, but 5-3 in that. So what were you feeling when you were now down 2-1 in the series, which is what people had predicted going into it, but that kind of stings.
Oh, yeah, I need to take you guys back because it took me a while to get over the sting of 2006. When they play the Stanley Cup championship, all the players rushing on the ice, yeah, and they show the Hurricanes one from 2006. I get a little I could just die a little bit inside. That was also the first year I went to go visit the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, And if you go into like the cool chamber where they got like all the major players that I've ever had, even other things that just were important to hockey, like Zamboni and stuff, and they have like a big lit up photograph of the championships of the champions for that year, and it was Carolina. And I was like, I felt so bad because like they got there because it's one thing to lose the final, but it's another thing to lose it in a 7-game series because that just means you just one win away from your dream, from your ultimate goal, right? So it took me a little while to get over that sting. Luckily, when I came and visited the Hockey Hall of Fame more recently, they replaced that photograph with the Capitals winning it in 18 because they just change it out every year, whoever gets the championship for that year. So I took you back a little too far. That was 18 years ago. Let me pull back up more recently. I'm just glad that Edmonton got the Western Conference. I'm just happy that they made it this far because, to be honest, I thought they were going to lose to Vancouver. They had to crawl their way to victory, and Vancouver was just like a pretty solid squad. They had to grind it into a 7-game series. They only won it by 1 goal, and it was a very heart-racing moment watching that clock. Like when your team is up by just 1 goal and there's so much on the line, you never want to see a clock wind down to 0 so fast. I know Robbie and I had that 6 years ago with the Capitals. So I was like, oh, hey, they beat Vancouver. But, Dallas, they got to the finals a couple of years ago. They're a solid squad, and Ottinger's just like a top-notch goalie. Like, I don't think we're going to beat him. And then we beat them in 6? Okay, This is pretty cool. And like we said, like there was only 10 shots in that game, the last night's game, to win it, which I thought was incredible. It was like a defensive grind. That's basically what it was. Like Connor McDavid's sick power play goal early in the first period was something that you'd see on a Wheaties box, man. That is just chef's kiss. Like, that is like his time to shine. He's always been put up there on the pedestal with, like, Ovechkin, Crosby, other greats of this generation's talent pool of hockey players. And now he's finally getting to, the big show. So I'm really happy about that. And then he had the nice assist for Hyman later on to make it 2. And then it was just keep the Stars at bay. It was like 30-something shots at the end of the game.
34.
It was insane. It was insane. Like Skinner, he saved the game. He was the MVP of the Oilers right there. So of course, I want my Oilers to win the Stanley Cup, but I understand how much of an adversity Florida is, and I understand why people have their they think that they're going to win, which I can kind of agree with, because like back in 18 I was like, oh, the Golden Knights, they're just steamrolling everybody. Like the Capitals are great, but they've had time to rest, because like there was a big gap between the end of the Western Conference and the beginning of the finals that year. And I was like, oh, they have so much time off, they're going to be able to just like relax and then get back up to full strength, while the Capitals had to play longer. So, but now I'm starting to feel like maybe it's like not, it's actually a detriment to have too much of a break between series, because then you kind of like lose momentum. Maybe like your muscle memory is getting a bit weak. Maybe they're just so eager to go hit some golf balls or something. I don't know, but sip some margaritas, get ready for the summer break. But with this series though, it's going to be very cool to watch. Both teams are solid. I can give you my hot take. Mm-hmm. You want, or do you want me to keep reminiscing about stuff? I can do that too.
Good. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Gonna explain. Just I wanted to put on record the other.
Yeah.
But you did a great job describing that last victory. But basically, to get there, won two games that were pretty impressive. But I think for time, I think we can just leave it there. That that we got there, and I'll get your take, and then because I do want to get to the Hershey Bears as well. So
yes.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on the finals, and then I'll go around the room and get everyone else's take as well.
Okay, well, my take is I understand why people want say that the Florida is going to win and they're the better team, and they there's a solid squad. I'm terrified of facing them, to be honest. But the thing is that they kind of play rough, a little dirty. If you saw this last series, Edmonton did not let Dallas get a single power play goal the entire series. They have a fantastic power play and a penalty killing. So if Florida draws those clumsy penalties that are easy to avoid and Edmonton capitalizes on that, I feel like that's going to be Edmonton's best chance to win the cup. If not, I'll be happy that they made it that far. Of course, I want to see them win the championship, as we all do, for your favorite teams. But I'm just glad that they made it this far, especially since I thought that they were going to get smoked by both Vancouver and then subsequently Dallas. They were the basement dwellers at the beginning of the season, Edmonton, and they had a bunch of coaching changes and stuff. And now they're here. I just think it's remarkable that they've made it this far. So if they can focus on the penalty killing and their power play, I'm also enjoying seeing the progress of Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Stuart Skinner. He Edmonton had to be advancing if Stuart Skinner was just okay, because Connor McDavid and the other offense players are good, but he's been phenomenal. So if he can continue his amazing stellar performance like he did against the Stars, then they'll have a chance. But yeah, who do I want to win? Edmonton, duh. But who do I think is probably going to win? Yeah, I think Florida's just a better all-around squad. And Bobrovsky is he's been a fantastic goalie, so he's going to be a tough opponent to fight. So, but we'll just see what happens. It's all about luck. Sometimes this is how it unfolds. Like how Toronto lost to Boston, with the luckiest bounce I've ever seen to get the Bruins eliminating the Maple Leafs. The puck just bounced right in front of Pasternak, and he was able to just put it in and then just keep Toronto's curse alive. So that's just the magic of the game, right? Of any game, once the ball or the puck hits the ice or the field, whatever, anything can happen. Anything can happen, and it's just I can't wait to see how it unfolds. Go Oilers, but I'll be okay with no matter what happens, because I'm just glad they made it this far.
Yeah, I was just looking. The last time a Canadian team won the Western Conference was 2011 with Vancouver Canucks. So it's been a long time since a Canadian team even was represented from the Western side in the Cup final. The last time a team was in the Cup final that was from Canada, though, was the Montreal Canadiens in 21 with the weird division,
Right, yeah, the North Division with the COVID stuff.
Yeah,
that was a weird one. And I think Montreal won the Western Conference that year due to the way it was laid out. So it's that's the one and only time you're ever going to see Montreal win the best in the West. So, yeah.
That's why I don't call it a Western Conference victory.
Right, yeah. Weird, yeah.
But
there should be an asterisk by that
right,
whole year,
exactly.
that whole season. Just
on Wikipedia, they don't even list them as a Western Conference champions. They just say that they were represented in the final.
Right.
Which I think makes more sense. But they did give them the Western trophy because they had to have a picture with a trophy.
Right, yeah, they had to give them something. Reminds me of when Winnipeg was in the Southeast Division for a couple of years.
Right.
They moved from Atlanta.
right.
All right, I'm gonna get Scott's final thoughts here on this, and then I'm gonna get C4. I kind of already gave her take, but I want to get her quick thoughts on the Bears, and I know we're running out of time here. But yeah,
I want to. Ooh, I have a visitor here. Come here.
Nice.
Bob? Yes. What do we got?
I want to see if it's Bob.
It's not Bob. That's why it's special. It's Cindy.
Oh,
Actually,
hello.
Say hi, Cindy. Say hi.
Cindy.
Hello.
Jazz was on earlier. That was the big gray fur blob you saw crawling around on me earlier. That was my cat Jazz. And then the orange one you saw walk across a few minutes ago was DJ.
I got another one too. He's at the
And
Bob.
then-
Everybody knows Bob.
And here comes Sebastian.
There you go. Okay,
You
sorry.
come up here.
So real quick, just to get back on track. Oh, that looks like Bob.
Here's Sebastian.
Just put that in look. Carly. That looks like Bob.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I think Florida's a great team. As a Ranger fan, obviously coming off a defeat, I definitely could admit who the better team was. Florida was the better team, but I'm not rooting. I'm not rooting for Florida. Like I just I know you're gonna think I'm a typical New Yorker. Like at this point, like I don't care anymore. Like I just don't care, you know.
Yeah.
But
Are you?
maybe I will root for Florida because I am in Florida. Like so, it will be fun to you know to get in the vibe with my Floridian friends. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so maybe I'll just go that route. But I don't know how much I'll be watching as opposed to actually putting on the Yankee game. So
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of New York fans at this point are just turning it off and turning on the Yankees, right? So
well, right, and that's that. I was
Yeah.
going to counter that. Right, I was going to say like I have. That's the beautiful thing about this time of year, especially when the Yankees are doing well. You always have them to fall back on. Like once the Knicks are out, the Rangers are out. It's like, all right, take me Yankees. Like let's go.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
they're looking good. They are looking
the
good.
games are actually pretty close right now for the Orioles. I did see an Orioles scoring update a little while. They were able to actually defeat the Toronto Blue Jays 7-2 in their game, and then the Nationals scored, but they're still trailing the Mets. It says 6-8 in the bottom of the ninth inning. So I'm not sure if that. Also, a Pokemon disappeared in chat.
Yeah, the Mets are winning. I saw that. Scissor Man watching us. He's a big Blue Jay fan.
Oh, I don't see Sidman in chat,
Yeah,
but yeah, that is true. He is a big Blue Jay fan. So,
yeah.
C4, final thoughts on that, and then I also wanted to get your take on on
Hershey.
Hershey. Yeah, especially because you got to.
Yeah. Um, I think I truthfully think it would be kind of fun to see Edmonton win and Gary Bettman lose his shit because a Canadian team, sorry, lose his mind because a Canadian team actually won the cup this year. But in all truth, I do think it's going to be Florida probably in 5. Just because I think Florida's stronger. They've got a little more depth, and if they can shut down Draisaitl, Hyman, and
McDavid.
McDavid, thank you. The one I should remember, right? If they can shut those 3 down, it'll be a lot, yeah, I think Florida in 5, honestly. But moving on to Hershey.
Real quickly before you do, I just want to thank the
Yeah.
for rating in. Champ just rated in with the True No Spots pod, and so I appreciate him for being a part of the team. And he's going to be actually joining in about 30 minutes on the next segment as well. So it's cool he's rating in, and then will be joining us in a little bit. From that point, we also have CW Guitar, who's logging in right now. We'll be bringing him in just a moment on the NBA side. But yeah, it's all right. We'll start out. But I do want to get the Hershey thoughts, so go for
Yeah.
it.
So I didn't get to go to game 1, but they are up now 2-0 in the series against the Monster, which is out of Cleveland, which is the baby Blue Jackets, if you will. They won their first game in overtime. The hero of that game was Mike Vecchione, and he scored at 7:58 in overtime. So yay, 1-0. So I was at game 2 on Saturday after leaving Ocean City and driving to Hershey that morning or that afternoon. We left Ocean City around noon, got up to Hershey about 4:30. So real quick in the game, Ethan Frank scored. Oh, sweet. I'm sorry. Garrett Rose scored the first goal at 14:35. Josh Doon tied it up. Then nobody scored in the second period. Oh, no, that wasn't the second period. Nobody scored in the first period. Third period, Ethan Frank made it 2-1. David, I can't pronounce his last name, tied it up. So it's 2-2 going into overtime. We're like, oh, great. We all got to go to work in the morning. What's going to happen? 13 minutes and change into overtime, 13:54. Pierre Dubé scores on a beautiful pass. I think it was from LaPierre, and he just flips it right in the goal, right over the blocker of Greaves. It was gorgeous. The place erupted. Everyone's happy. Oh, So we play in Cleveland. I think it's tomorrow. No, is it tomorrow night?
Yeah,
Yeah, tomorrow night we play in Cleveland.
yeah.
So
The upcoming schedule for people who want to know is at the Cleveland Monsters. They play Tuesday at 7,
right,
Thursday at 7, and then they actually play a 2-3-2 in the AHL, right?
correct.
They play the next game if necessary. Hopefully it won't be, but if necessary,
Right.
5 will be in Cleveland on Saturday at 7, and then it's
Yeah.
switched back to the Hershey Bears next Monday would be the game 6, and next
Right.
Wednesday would be the game 7, if
Correct.
necessary. There, so that's how the 7-game series works. But hopefully,
Yeah.
they win the first 2 in Cleveland, and then it's not an issue. And
There you go. Yeah, there's theories that the final could be a repeat of last year. Hershey and Coachella Valley again.
yeah, how's Coachella? Do you know how they're doing in their series? I don't even know.
Give me a second, I'll look it up. Where's my
I actually,
you got the AHL app up?
yeah, Coachella Valley.
Because for whatever reason.
The website has it on the front page, so it'll just show it there. So sorry, I'm pulling up their website right now, and oh wow, their website is not nearly as good as the Bears one. Why?
No, the AHL site is.
But the Bears one had it
I
right
actually have the app for the AHL. I don't know why it's not showing up on my phone. AHL. There it is.
It looks like they won their first 2 games.
Yeah.
The Admirals 2-1, and then 3-1, and then the next 3 are in Milwaukee on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, same as us, and then
Yeah, yeah, that's right. They play Milwaukee.
so they all play on the same days. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that'd be interesting if we end up playing against the Firebirds again. And Coach
Yeah.
started. They're a brand new team. It's kind
This
of
is their second year.
their second year, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row, and they won
Hmm.
last year. So that's pretty wild. So they're kind of like the Golden Knights of
Yeah. Hershey's gonna have a tougher time beating Coachella Valley this year though, because they're on a like Florida, they're on a mission.
Coachella
They
Valley.
came this close last year in
Who's Coachella Valley's NHL team?
Seattle.
Oh, it's Seattle. Okay, got it. That makes sense. Why they have a new one.
But last year they were so arrogant. They had only booked one night in Hershey for game 5 because they thought they were gonna win it. They
Nice.
didn't think there was gonna be a game 6.
Ooh,
So they had to find another hotel, like several miles out.
nice.
I hope they learned their lesson.
Right, and then they lost that game too.
And they ended up losing that game too, because then, yep.
So, pretty awesome. Hopefully they'll be able to repeat. Yeah, I wish that it's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
the
I'm wearing my Count 'em 12 shirt, so
love it. So yeah, it's sort of bittersweet this moment because this is like the last time I get to talk hockey up until next hockey season.
yeah.
I usually do cover them through the cup final, but this year this is going to be the last show of the season. But I really appreciate all you guys for helping me break down this team. C4 has been with me all season long with the Capitals, and Adrian, you've been covering the Oilers for the last couple of weeks, and Scott, I've gotten to have you cover the Rangers for a couple of weeks now, and so it's been really fun to talk hockey with all of you guys. I am going to give a quick little shout out to Adrian's channel. Definitely, people should go give a follow to Ace Caltor, and maybe Carly can do another shout out for him. Or actually, I can.
Yeah, Carly. Thank you, Carly.
And so I'll do that one. She can do the other one, or any of the mods can. Davey's in chat, and so he wanted to say hey, C Dub and Champ and Robbie and Adrian, C4 and Scott. Yeah, there's a lot of people. He's sipping at a beverage at the hotel bar and chilling with us all tonight. So he couldn't be live on air because he's at an awesome vacation, sipping on a drink, which I totally
Good
appreciate.
for him.
And
Yeah.
Good for you, but I appreciate you still joining us, in chat. So you get to sip on your drink and hang out with us still, and I appreciate that. So so yeah, everyone go follow Adrian. He's really trying to get to affiliate. So we're thinking about maybe after the stream tonight, rating into him, bringing all of us, over there to help him. You just got to get the average number up just a little bit, and so we're gonna do that. So Adrian's gonna do a
Just
little
follow
more
him.
right after our stream, and he'll be kind of the post stream party. The
Yeah,
comeback.
yeah. That's where
Um,
it's at. Yeah. After
exactly.
party.
Adrian, any final thoughts on your Oilers and anything else?
Oh well. Besides what I said before, yeah, Florida is the favorite to win. I understand that. They're going to be a hell of a team to fight against, but it'll take a lot to get me to not be a fan of the Oilers. Like, I'll follow them. They're the team that really got me into sports to begin with. So, I like I said before, if they can just take advantage of clumsy Florida penalties, take advantage of the power play, have McDavid and Hyman and Draisaitl. They've been phenomenal, and if Stuart Skinner can continue to be a wall and just stop everything, then they have a chance. Otherwise, yeah, like if Florida wins, look, I did this even with the Capitals because ever since '06, it took me a while to get over the sting of Edmonton losing. So I just whenever there's a team that's like I love that's in the finals, I just automatically go into it thinking they're going to lose. So that way, if they do, it won't be that much of a gut punch. So like I wear like a black shirt, like I'm ready to dress up for a funeral. The same thing. Like I thought the Capitals were going to lose to Tampa Bay back in '18, and then when they did that, I was like, oh, that's great. And then when they won Game 2 through 5, I was like, oh my god, this is
I
actually
can't believe we
happening.
still got to watch that game with you, Adrian. That's
Yeah,
still
that was so much fun. Yeah, and then similar was when the Nationals won the World Series the following year, and the Raptors also. We got like the Raptors got lucky in '19 because they were a solid team. They had Kawhi Leonard for 1 year, and the Golden State Warriors happened to have a lot of injuries plaguing their roster that year. So it was like they got taken down a notch, and the Raptors were put up a notch, and that's how they were able to win that. So I've been pretty blessed and lucky and fortunate to see some of my favorite teams succeed, the ultimate accomplishment in the world of sports. So it would be great to see Edmonton share that triumph, at least now as an adult, being able to observe what's happening in real time. Because they did win when I was like a baby, but I only cared about like Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters and like cereal back then. Like I didn't really follow sports until later on. Like it wasn't until like Cal Ripken Jr. and like the Orioles when I came here to the U.S. in '89 and I started watching baseball. And then I got into hockey later on. And was like, wait, people have heard of Edmonton in the U.S. besides the biggest mall in the world? What? Wayne Gretzky? Who's that? Wow! And that's what got me into sports. So that like to the next level. So I'm hoping that they can succeed. Like oil countries got fantastic, passionate fan base. It'd be fantastic to see not only Edmonton win, but also to have a Canadian team hoist the cup for the first time in over 30 years. My God. But yeah, but no matter what happens, I'm just glad they made it this far, and I really appreciate you having me on with your cool cohorts here, Scott, C4. Pleasure to talk with you. Scott, I gotta say, like when it comes to the Rangers fans, I'm always like, hey, Edmonton, man, Mark Messier is like the best guy, right? Yeah, so like we can always agree on that. Always agree on that. So just keep that in mind, okay?
All right.
And yeah, I really appreciate your support, Robbie and friends, and thanks for the shout out. And I will.
If I didn't live in Florida, I'd probably want to root for.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're in Florida, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can root for Edmonton in secret, maybe. I don't know. No, it's up to you. It's up to
I secretly do root for the underdog. I secretly always root for the underdog.
Yeah. But yeah, like I will be playing. I'll be streaming after the end of your delightful show. So thank you for having me on. It's been a fantastic season, and I look forward to when the Olympics come on. And if you want
Yes.
me on for that, I'll be a part of that too.
Yeah, I think anybody who wants to watch the Olympics with me is more than welcome to be a part of that. Davey, C4, I know you, and I don't know, Scott, if you follow any of the Summer Olympics, but if you do, you're also welcome to join.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, first game, just so people know, Edmonton Oilers playing Florida Saturday, June 8th. So we still got a little bit of a ways to wait. It's an 8 o'clock game. Then it's next Monday at 8 o'clock. No podcast that you have to worry about tomorrow on that one. And then Thursday and then Saturday are the first 4 games, and they go Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday after that. So, best of luck, Adrian, and we'll talk to you during the Olympic season.
Thanks a lot, Robbie. I appreciate it. You guys have a good night. Okay, thank you for having me on.
Thanks. Nice
Sure.
to see you.
Good night.
Yeah, I got you.
Good night.
For final thoughts, and then I'll let you go.
Again, thanks for having me on this season. It's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to the next one. Looking forward to the Olympics. Hopefully be able to talk some track and field. I actually watched some track and field over the weekend. The last week, there was it was like a trial thing. It was but it was fun to watch. So I look forward to that in the summer.
Rooting for the Celtics are you gonna watch any of the NBA finals? I know you.
Probably I'll watch the hockey, but I'll probably watch some of the finals with the Celtics. I haven't watched the basketball much the last few years.
Yeah.
But
they made it. So congratulations to Carly who's in chat and to you. I do know that you guys both are Celtics fans, and so we'll definitely talk about them in just a second. But thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was always a pleasure.
All right. Bye, Adrian. Bye, C4.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. I'm heading out.
All right. All right. We're gonna use